I found the envelope in the hallway. No stamp, no return address, just my name in slanted, hurried handwriting. It was wedged under the baseboard heater like someone had tried to hide it. Or like they were too ashamed to hand it to me in person. I knew that handwriting. I'd traced it in birthday cards, on notes left in the kitchen, and on the last Christmas tag that said, "To Ella, with love, Mom." My hands trembled slightly as I picked it up. There was no sound in the apartment except the faint hum of the fridge. I stood there barefoot, mail in one hand, an empty coffee mug in the other, and a feeling in my chest like I was holding something that could unravel me. I opened it slowly, as if peeling back the paper would delay what was coming. Ella. You were never meant to find out this way. But your father made decisions that changed everything. I just wanted you to know it wasn't my choice. He said you wouldn't understand. Please don't hate us. There was no signature. No date. Just that, half a confession, half a warning. I sank down to the floor, knees hitting cold wood, and read it again. Decisions that changed everything. I'd been living on the edge of confusion for months, locked out of family accounts, my calls unanswered, and that icy silence from my father whenever I asked about the trust. Now, all the tiny fractures in our family were pointing to something bigger. I thought of the look my mother gave me last Thanksgiving when I asked her directly, "Is Dad hiding something from me?" She smiled too quickly, sipped her wine, and changed the subject to the cranberry sauce. But her eyes were screaming. And now this letter. Quiet, rushed, almost scared. As if she wanted to speak but wasn't allowed. I stood up and placed the letter on the counter. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Instead, I picked up my phone and dialed the one person who always told me to trust my instincts. Aunt Lydia? I asked when she picked up. My voice barely above a whisper. I think something's wrong. And I need the truth. There was a pause on the line. Not the kind where someone's thinking, but the kind where they're deciding how much truth they can afford to give you. Aunt Lydia finally sighed. Ella, honey, I was hoping it wouldn't come to this. My throat tightened. Come to what? She hesitated again, then said, your name was on the trust. For years. Your grandparents left it for you, not your father. He was just the executor. I felt the air leave my lungs. Was? Yes, she said. Until last spring. That's when your father petitioned the court to remove you. Claimed you were unstable. That you had no interest in the family estate. That's a lie. My voice cracked, sharp now. He never even told me. Because he didn't want you to know. The room spun slightly. I gripped the edge of the counter, grounding myself. He stole it. She didn't deny it. What about Mom? Did she know? I asked, already guessing the answer. Aunt Lydia's voice softened. I don't think she agreed with it. But she didn't stop him either. And just like that, every quiet moment, every dismissive answer, every strange silence from my mother made sense. She knew. She always knew. I have a copy of the original documents, Aunt Lydia added. The ones with your name. I kept them because, well, your grandfather asked me to. He didn't trust your father completely. My grandfather. Gone 10 years, but even then, he must have seen what I was just now understanding. Can you send them to me? I whispered. They're already in the mail, she said. Registered. You'll have them by tomorrow. I couldn't speak. Could barely think. Ella, she said gently, whatever he's done, he can't hide it forever. Especially not from you. I hung up and just stood there, letting the silence fill the room like water. I thought about the time my father told me not to worry about financial matters, that they were too complex. The time he laughed when I asked about the trust at 19. That's for later, sweetheart. Enjoy your life. What he meant was, enjoy it while you still believe you have one. But I knew now. And tomorrow, when that envelope arrived, I'd have proof. And I would do something they never expected. I would fight. It came at 10:14 a.m. A knock at the door, firm and steady. I opened it to a courier in a blue windbreaker, holding a cardboard envelope and asking for a signature. I didn't hesitate. Inside was a neatly folded packet, secured with a paperclip and a yellow post-it from Aunt Lydia. Be careful. It's worse than you think. I sat on the edge of my bed and unfolded the first page. There it was, of my full name, Ella Marianne Hale, listed as the sole beneficiary of the Hale Family Trust. Dated 3 months before my grandfather passed. Witnessed. Notarized. Legal. The next page made my heart stop. A legal amendment filed 11 months ago. By my father. Stating I had willingly forfeited all claim to the estate, citing my emotional instability and absence from family matters. The signature at the bottom looked like mine. But I had never signed it. Not once. I flipped between pages, back and forth, my hands trembling. I knew my signature, how it dipped slightly on the second L and curled on the E. This one was stiff. Forged. Someone had practiced. Someone had taken their time. And someone had made a mistake. The notary stamp belonged to someone named Trevor Marcus. The name rang a bell. I jumped to my laptop and searched local notaries. It didn't take long. Trevor Marcus was an associate at my father's law firm, an intern, barely 2 years out of college. And suddenly it clicked. My father hadn't just stolen from me. He'd built the lie using people who owed him favors. I sat back in my chair, pulse pounding. Betrayal doesn't always come with a scream. Sometimes it's polite. Professional. Packaged in legalese and signed in ink you never touched. I didn't call anyone. I didn't cry. Instead, I opened a new tab and typed 3 words, estate litigation attorney. If they wanted silence, they should have picked another daughter. The attorney's office smelled like old wood and fresh coffee. It was one of those converted homes downtown, where the rooms were too small and the windows too tall, and everything creaked when you breathed. I sat on a worn leather chair while a woman named Genevieve read through the documents I handed her. She didn't speak for a long time. When she finally looked up, she said, "How close are you with your father?" I laughed. Not out of humor. Define close. She didn't smile. Just nodded slowly. This signature is fraudulent. The language is standard, but the notary stamp, he's not legally authorized to witness family estate matters under your father's firm. Conflict of interest. It'll unravel in court. I swallowed the lump in my throat. So I can fight this? You can do more than fight, she said. You can win. I nodded, not because I felt confident, but because I needed to. Because for the first time in months, the ground under me felt solid. I had lived with the ache of being dismissed, the sting of being managed, as if I were a child. But I wasn't a child. And I wasn't going to be quiet anymore. We'll need to move carefully, Genevieve said, sliding the documents back to me. Your father's power depends on perception. If he thinks you're backing down, he'll tighten control. But if he senses you're building a case, he'll panic. That's when people get sloppy. I tilted my head. You think he's scared of being exposed? Everyone is. Especially men like your father. They build their world on control. The second you crack that image, he'll lose more than money. He'll lose face. And that's what men like him fear most. I walked out of her office clutching a new folder and a new feeling. It wasn't anger. Not quite vengeance. It was clarity. Cold, clean clarity. By the time I got home, my inbox had a message from Aunt Lydia. He knows you know. Be careful. He called me this morning, asking questions. I didn't say anything. But he's watching. I stared at the words until the screen blurred. Then I opened a drawer, pulled out the old family photo from the cabin trip in '09, the last time we all smiled in the same room. I turned it over and wrote 3 words on the back. You taught me. Because he had. He taught me that silence doesn't mean safety. That being obedient doesn't earn respect. That being loyal, when it's not returned, is just a form of quiet self-erasure. I had erased myself for too long. Later that night, my phone rang. The screen flashed Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. Ella, your father says you're trying to stir things up. He's upset. This is all just a misunderstanding. You know how he is. Don't do anything rash, okay? No, I'm sorry. No, I didn't know. Just damage control. I forwarded the message to Genevieve. The next morning, a courier delivered another envelope. This one wasn't from Aunt Lydia. It was from my father. Inside, a single typed page. Ella. We heard you've been speaking to people. That's unfortunate. You're young, emotional. You don't understand how complex these matters are. I suggest we sit down, just the 2 of us, before this becomes a mess no one can fix. Let me know when you're ready to be reasonable. Dad. Reasonable. That was always his word when he meant obedient. When he meant silent. I folded the letter once and slid it into the same drawer as the old photo. Then I picked up my phone and texted him back. I'm ready to speak. But not alone. Bring your lawyer. I'll bring mine. His reply came within minutes. What are you doing? I didn't answer. Because finally, I didn't owe him one. At exactly 4 p.m. On Friday, I walked into a downtown office tower, polished and neutral, the kind of place where people whisper in hallways and betrayal wears a 3-piece suit. Genevieve was already waiting in the conference room. Across from her sat my father, arms crossed, jaw tight, and beside him, a man I recognized from the firm's website, his legal pit bull. Ella, my father said, nodding like this was a family dinner. I didn't sit. I dropped the folder on the table and said, let's talk about fraud. He stiffened. His lawyer started to speak, but Genevieve raised her hand. We'll speak plainly, she said. Your client forged a signature. We have the original documents, a timeline, a witness. You want this to stay private? Then here's what we want. She handed over a sheet of paper. My father didn't touch it. Genevieve continued, full reinstatement of Ella's status as beneficiary. Immediate control of the trust transferred to a neutral third-party administrator. A public statement of correction filed with the court. And if we refuse, his lawyer asked. Then we go to court, she said calmly. And Ella tells her story. The one where her own father erased her signature, her rights, her legacy. In front of a judge. In front of the press. In front of everyone you've ever tried to impress. My father's face was stone. But his lawyer glanced at the paper. And that's when I saw it, the moment he realized we weren't bluffing. He whispered something to my father, low and urgent. My father's eyes narrowed. You're making a mistake, he said to me. You'll regret this. No, I said, my voice steady. I've just finally stopped pretending it's not already been made. I walked out of that room taller than I'd ever felt. Because this wasn't just about money. It was about something bigger. It was about the girl they tried to silence. Finding her voice, and knowing exactly how to use it. The morning after the meeting, I woke up to sunlight pouring through my blinds. For the first time in months, my heart wasn't racing the second I opened my eyes. The battle hadn't ended, but the power had shifted. I could feel it in the way my hands moved without shaking as I brewed coffee. In the way I caught myself humming. I checked my phone. 1 missed call from Mom. No voicemail. 2 texts from Aunt Lydia. He's furious. He called me at midnight. Screamed something about betrayal. I told him the truth scares people who build their lives on secrets. I smiled. Then a third text popped up, this time from an unknown number. You don't know the damage you're doing. No name. No punctuation. But I knew exactly who it was. My father had never needed to sign his cruelty. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled out the worn copy of the trust documents Genevieve had highlighted. They were now part of the case file. She told me that if he pushed back, we'd file suit. She was already preparing for depositions, subpoenas, financial audits. You're not just restoring what's yours, she had said. You're uncovering everything he's hidden. I spent the rest of the morning printing, filing, organizing. Not because I didn't trust Genevieve, but because I wanted to see every piece with my own eyes. For years, I'd been told the business was too complicated for me. That the estate planning was delicate. That I should just focus on living my life. What they really meant was stay out of it. What they really meant was stay small. Around 3 p.m., my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and froze. It was my mother. I opened the door slowly. She stood there, arms crossed, sunglasses perched too perfectly on her nose, the kind of posture that was more armor than poise. Hi, Mom. Can I come in? She asked, her voice clipped, her jaw tight. I stepped aside. She didn't say thank you. She walked in like she still owned the world, eyes scanning my modest apartment as if expecting to find chaos. Instead, she found clean surfaces and neatly stacked files. Evidence of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. She sat on the edge of my couch like it offended her. I didn't offer tea. I didn't ask how she'd been. She broke the silence first. Why are you doing this? I met her eyes. Doing what? Defending what's mine. She sighed, annoyed. It's not just yours, Ella. This kind of thing, legal battles, accusations, it destroys families. No, I said calmly. Lies destroy families. Forgery destroys trust. I'm just bringing the truth into the open. Her expression hardened. Your father made decisions to protect the estate. You were unstable for a while. Remember? The anxiety? I stared at her. That was 3 years ago. And I went to therapy. I got help. But none of that justified what he did. You were distant, she said. You stopped calling. Because you stopped listening, I said quietly. Every time I asked about the trust, you changed the subject. Every time I brought up my rights, you made me feel guilty for asking. She didn't deny it. I stood, walked to the drawer, and pulled out the original trust papers. I placed them in front of her. Read it, I said. Grandpa left it to me. Not to him. Not to you. To me. She didn't touch the paper. Instead, she looked up at me, and for a moment, her voice softened. Ella, what if we just fix this quietly? Your father's reputation. I interrupted. You mean the one he built on pretending I didn't exist? Her mouth opened. Closed. I'm not ruining his life, I said. I'm reclaiming mine. She stood slowly. You always were dramatic. No, I said, walking to the door. I was silent. There's a difference. I held it open. She walked out without another word. But just before she turned down the hallway, she paused and looked back. Her voice was barely audible. Just, don't burn everything down, Ella. Some things can't be rebuilt. I didn't answer. Because she was right. Some things can't be rebuilt. Especially trust. Especially daughters who finally learned how to stand. That night, Genevieve called. He's stalling, she said. His lawyer requested an extension. He's either trying to buy time to negotiate or destroy documents. I was ready. Then let's get ahead of him. Subpoena the notary. If he talks, the whole lie collapses. Genevieve didn't even hesitate. I'll draft the request in the morning. I hung up and stood at the window, looking out at the quiet street below. It was strange how calm everything looked. How normal. But inside me, there was a quiet storm finally moving in the right direction. And somewhere in that storm, I felt it. The shift. The moment when the girl they tried to erase became the woman who would write the ending. And not with vengeance. But with truth. And paper. And every quiet thing they never saw coming. I knew exactly what I was doing when I wrote the letter. It wasn't rage-filled. It wasn't dramatic. It was surgical, carefully worded and legally sound. To whom it may concern, it began, and not once did I refer to them as mom or dad. They were not entitled to intimacy. Not after what they'd done. I enclosed copies of the forged documents, the fraudulent mortgage papers, and the results from the handwriting expert I'd hired. Side-by-side comparisons showed exactly what I knew: the signatures weren't mine. I filed a report with the police that same day, signed every page with the real stroke of my pen. It felt like reclaiming my name. I mailed copies of the letter to their home, their lawyer's office, and the bank. My hands didn't tremble. I felt no pity, no hesitation. They'd betrayed me in silence. Now I'd fight them in it, too. I heard about the fallout not from them, but from Aunt Lydia. "They're panicking," she said on the phone, her voice hushed. "Your dad's law firm found out. He's been suspended pending investigation." Good. He built a life on loopholes and manipulation. Let it collapse. "They didn't think you'd go through with it," she added quietly. "They really thought you'd just absorb it." "Not anymore," I said. "That girl's gone." That weekend, I got a letter. Handwritten. From my mother. It began with "Dearest Ella" and ended with "You're tearing this family apart." No apology. No remorse. Just guilt disguised as concern. I threw it away. The courtroom wasn't dramatic like TV. Just cold. Quiet. Real. I sat across from my father as the judge read the charges. He looked tired. Smaller. Jessica sat beside him, eyes red but dry. She didn't look at me. The prosecutor laid it out: identity theft, mortgage fraud, and defamation. My lawyer presented our evidence. Every document. Every signature. Every lie. When I took the stand, I told the truth. I loved my family, I said. But they didn't love me back. Not enough to protect me. Not enough to tell the truth. The judge ruled in my favor. The loan voided. Damages awarded. But the real victory? Watching them hear the verdict and realize I wasn't their victim anymore. I didn't return to the family home. Even when they tried to call. Even when Jessica sent messages like, "Can't we just talk?" There was nothing left to say. Forgiveness isn't a door you can walk through just because you're tired of the storm. It's a gate you earn the key to. And they'd thrown theirs away the day they signed my name to their debt. I moved to a new place. Bright windows. Clean start. And for the first time, when I introduced myself to new neighbors, I smiled. "My name is Ella," I said. "I'm starting over." Months passed. One day, I received an invitation in the mail: Jessica's wedding. A handwritten note attached: "I'd love for you to be there. You're my sister." I stared at it for a long time. Then I picked up my pen, flipped over the card, and wrote back just 2 words. "Not anymore." And with that, I placed it back in the envelope, sealed it, and sent it off. The revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It was silence. It was peace. and in that quiet, I found myself again. Whole. Unshaken. Free.